Hello everybody and welcome back to the Aztecs Racing League's WEC Classic event for season number 1. We are here at round number 4, the Nurburgring. Welcome in to this evening as we prepare to go racing at Wright Broadcastin. I am here today joined by a co-commentator, James Paisley Knight. It is going to be a good one tonight, James. So it's a smaller grid than we're used to. However, some strong names out there. The LMP1 drivers are looking to continue their fight as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the LMP1s, we've got all of the strong drivers out there. So it might be a bit of a smaller grid, but I do think we're going to be in for a fantastic evening of racing tonight.
And a championship that is going to be halfway completed at the end of this evening as well. As we've completed 3 rounds already, we went across to Silverstone on the 28th of February to kick this one all off, and it was a very easy win in the end for Quinten Verdonk at that one in ULMP1 field. We then went across to Spa-Francorchamps. Issues, if we remember, for Tony Dibden. He could have got a podium, but he fell down the order with a penalty that set him back an entire lap last week out at Le Mans. We could have had what would have been an excellent fight in your GTE field. Unfortunately, a number of cars going out early doors in that one. It meant that they fell out of the championship fight. And it does mean now that we've got 3 different championships all going out on the track today, but with some different car numbers out there. Only 2 GTEs, but it does give Andy Bootland a great opportunity to fly up the championship order, and that's the one that we will start with then. It is Philip Beresville who sits at the top of that one with 100 points out of the opening 3 rounds. And bearing in mind, in your first 3 races so far, you have had an opportunity to score 165 points. It's showing that it's not going to be a runaway championship. Isaac Fairweather sits in second in that championship, both of those with a victory. Bootland right now, he has the opportunity today, no victory to his name. He sits third in the championship, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Clausen in 4th position with 68 points, followed by Philip Ansell of Coupe de Motorsport in 55. And then Mia Rose, who came out of the gate really fast in round number 3. That was her debut with a fantastic finish. So on 50 points at the moment. Over to you for 7th place.
Indeed, it was Callan Shepherd then in 7th position right now, 40 points to his name, and Mauricio Marquez Ramos, who is our other GTE driver, he'll be looking to get a strong amount of points. I mean, 55 points on offer. He could find himself all the way up inside the top 4 at the end of this one. He's got the same points right now as Kyle Graham, and they are the last of our drivers with points in your GTE championship heading into the 4th round of competition. So I'll hand it over to you for the LMP2 championship.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Charlie Devlin on 110 points is your leader of the LMP2 class at the moment, followed by Luca Gray, who's one of our independent drivers, just 10 points back. Riley Pogue in 3rd position for LS Racing with 80 points. Ryan Stringer in 4th position with 74 points, followed by Aspen Martin in Prismatic Motorsports. Had a bit of contact at the Le Mans race earlier on in the season. But I don't think we've got Aspen out there at the moment. Hopefully we'll see her on the grid later on this season. Over to you for 6th place.
Indeed, is then Lucas Chatterton sitting around in 6th position, and he is out there right now, so be looking to climb up towards your front drivers. Jacob Jenner sits in 7th, also for Coupe de Motorsports with 45 points. Noah Oswald Destin is on there in 8th position, 40 points to his name, but what we do need to take clear is Oswald Destin has moved across into the LMP1 field, so we could discount Oswald Destin in this LMP2 field because in the LMP1 field we are looking at him. We'll have to talk about that because he'll be added in not in the official standings at the moment, so we'll talk about that in a moment. Stitchbury in 9th position, 3 points back. It is Chris Susky who is rounding out the top 10 in your championship there, and at the back of the championship with points it's Matthew Jolly and Ivan Taranov. Into our LMP1 field then. Before we go through the major part of your LMP1 field, I do want to say Noah Oswald Destin stepped into that car last week in round number 3, did get a 10th place finish with those points should be with 19. But in the official championship standings right now, he does not have any points to his name. We're getting that clarified, and hopefully we'll have that clarified by the time we head out in a week's time. Because we're going 3 weeks in a row this time, is not waiting around for the next round. It is going to be 3 back-to-back events. Let's have a look at your LMP1 Championship then. And it is at the very top of that one. If I hit the show button, maybe we'll actually get it on the broadcast. There we go. Jan Korbs is sitting at the very top with 105 points. And as we mentioned, the drivers at the top of your LMP1 field, they are out there today. He is clear by 13 points on Quinten Verdonk, and it is Julian Metzner who sits third in the championship. They are your 3 drivers that have taken victory so far in the opening rounds.
Absolutely. In 4th place, we've got Tony Dibden of TDI 99 Racing on 76 points. Justin Sudenek in 5th place. We've just been looking at him going round at the moment in qualifying. And then Napsuga Kosne in 6th position with 71 points. Jeffrey Lawler in 7th with Nexus Esports on 65, followed by their teammate Nicholas Kingswell, 20 points back there. Travis Clausen in 9th position, one of our independent drivers. Very close actually behind in 10th position is then Alexander Strobel, just 1 point separating the two of those. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops over the rest of the season. Over to you.
It certainly will, as Gavin Abagast will then be in 11th position, 36 points to his name, so also just a couple of points back, and then tied on points in 12th and 13th. It's Dominic Gallo and Jemmy Crooks there of Gumi Designs and Nexus Esports. James Magasgale can't get out there today. He's your league organiser, sitting in 14th position with 32 points, point clear of Matthew Carmichael and Sam Hughes. It's Leon Flukiger then in 17th position, 3 points back, before a little bit of a jump to Adolfo Perez in 18th position. Ben Massey is sitting in 19th with Daniel Zofko. That is where Noah Osbaldestin would be sat as well if he does get those 19 points onto the board, which hopefully we will have for next week. And then we look at the back of the field is Michael Abasek, who is our last driver, who has got points on the board so far this season. Julian Daniels is down there at the moment without points on the board, but if I'm not mistaken, I saw Daniels in the session, and yes, Daniels is in the session as well, so we'll be looking to move up the order. With that being said then, we've looked at the calendar, we've looked at the standings, and now we are going to look across to qualifying, which is coming up towards a close here. A lot of drivers on their final laps of asking around the Nurburgring circuit, but some of them are yet to get their first laps on the board, and one of those is Ben Massey of the Iron Knox Motorsports, just heading around slowly on an outlap here. And in fact, once Massey gets up towards the timing line, we will have a ride on board of a lap of the Nürburgring circuit, because it is one that has not been seen on the Formula One calendar for a while, but it is still known in many hearts as a brilliant racing track, of course, next to the Nordschleife. But you can do the combined layout. Not tonight, though. It is just going to be the GP loop. Not running the tight chicane. We're going to do the fast chicane, which I think a lot of these drivers are going to be appreciating a lot. We're going to have a look at Ben Massey as he heads up towards the final chicane, and when we get on to a lap, we'll ride on board and see what he is able to do. Of course, these LMP1s have that hybrid system that they need to play around with. It's something that I've never been able to get to grips myself. Let's see if Massey is able to do that. We'll ride on board, and I'll take it over to you, James, to talk us through this lap.
Yeah, absolutely. This track is one of the greatest challenges, I think, in all of endurance racing, particularly in multi-class. So we're going to fly down into turn 1 now. It's a heavy braking zone into a tight right-hander. Now, you'll see here on the right-hand side, the track falls away really significantly. The back end's really squiggling around there, really struggling for traction as we see Ben Massey coming out of turn 2 into the Mercedes AMG arena here. You can take a lot of curb here, and then it's a little bit wide from Ben there. It really compromises that exit. You can run it out nice and wide on that left-hand side. We're going to see a lot of drivers flirting with the idea of getting off tracks there. This downhill section, again, we're going to see drivers going down the inside into this hairpin. There's a lot of camber in this part of the track as we come down the hill. It's quite a weird part of the track where you feel like you have to slow down a lot more than you actually can. Here again, we can see into this right-hand hairpin, real positive camber, and use as much of that curve as he possibly can. Up into the Michael Schumacher S's, it's foot flat to the floor. Try not to hit those curbs too much. They can really launch the car, particularly in these prototypes. And then slamming onto the brakes for the final of the slower chicanes. This exit onto this right-hand corner is absolutely crucial. We're going to see a lot of drivers, particularly as the classes start to merge, throwing it down the inside of this fast chicane at the end. I'm expecting some contact at some point. Trust the car, trust the downforce here in these LMP1 machines as we come into the Hyundai N curve. Right at the end of the lap, that is a lap of the Nurburgring Grand Prix layout.
And for Ben Massey, it is going to be a time on the board of 36.978. It is good enough for 6th position in that one right now. Very slow in comparison to the other drivers out there. And while we were watching Massey, there was exchanging of positions as Metzner went back to pole. Is Corbs going to be able to knock him off of that top spot as he comes across the timing line? It will not be good enough on the final lap of asking for Corbs. And it looks like actually he will get one more go at it. He goes on to his 4th lap of asking. So Jean Corbs here will be looking to try and get past Julian Metzner in this last attempt, with 0.2 of a second separating them. It's the neck sitting in 3rd position right now. Those top 3 less than a second apart. Tony Dibden just outside of it, but it's nice to see the 4 of them inside the top 5 in the championship up there at the front. Of course, only Quinton Verdonk inside your top 5 in your LMP1 class and not out there today. In your LMP2 field, Charlie Devlin is your fastest of all there, and he's only 0.1 of a second clear on Luca Gray, and that is 1st and 2nd in your LMP2 championship as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Devlin and Gray get on. Devlin's won both of the races he's competed in so far. Gray won that first race. Corbs comes through the exit of turn number 12 and heading up towards the Vidal chicane, and towards the end of the lap, is he going to be able to improve on this final attempt to get past Julian Metzner? He took the last lap to recharge his car. He comes through the final turn and up towards the timing line. Can it be an improvement over his 31.423 he's done before? It is a 30.8. It is enough to place him onto pole position, almost 0.4 clear of Julian Metzner. That is exactly what the championship leader would have wanted out of this one.
That's a fantastic lap there. I thought we were going to see an off-track right at the end there, going through the final chicane, using all of the available track there. That's one of those laps that you see from championship leaders. The pressure's on. You've maybe not had the qualifying session that you've wanted so far. You've had your banker lap and you realise that you're still a few tenths down, and then all of a sudden you pull out a lap like that and go 0.4 clear of Julian Metzner. That's fantastic from Jan Corbs. Be interesting to see if any of the drivers have got anything left in the tank to try and compete with a lap that fast. Well done, Jan.
Indeed, it's only got Julian Daniels and Ben Massey out there right now in the session, looking to put in lap times. And after having some connectivity issues, we say Matthew Carmichael return back into the session as well. But he will not have time to put a lap time on the board. He'll be starting at the back of your LMP1 field. Is Daniels of Mojo Juju going to be able to move up any of the positions here? He has got a big gap to Tony Dibden, but he sends himself off the circuit there, and that will invalidate his lap time, so he will have to back out. He does have enough of a lap count to go for another lap. He does not have enough time to do that, however, so he'll have to give up with that attempt. And Ben Massey also had an extra lap in hand, but has gone down pit lane. And with that being said, here at the Nurburgring circuit, we've had all of our drivers complete the laps that they can, and we are going to see the checkered flag fly in just a few moments' time, as we will get our qualifying order. But it is pole position for Jean Corbs, championship leader in your LMP1 field. Pole position for Charlie Devlin, championship leader in your LMP2 field. And it's pole position for Andy Bootland, whose best result so far was a second place back at Spa. He got third last time out at Le Mans. Can he go to that top spot? He's only got to beat Marcos Ramos to get there. Qualifying is done and dusted. and we will talk you through your grid once they get into the race session. As they get onto the grid here, we'll have a little bit of a look at how they are going to start this one up. It is going to be your LMP1 field and Jan Korbs starting from the very front of your field. Julian Metzner will be starting alongside him as they will fight it out for the championship. Justin Stanek in third position, of course. Korbs and Metzner, they're written as independent, but we do know a little bit behind the scenes that they do work together in the same team. So even though they're not out there in the same team, they very much know each other very well. Justin Stanek sits in third position. Tony Dibden will start this one in fourth ahead of Julian Daniels. Dominic Gallo will be starting in sixth position, and at the rear of your LMP1 field will be Ben Massey. Do you want to talk us through our LMP2 grid here? If I just adjust this a little bit, here we go. Talk us through our LMP2 grid.
Absolutely. Charlie Devlin is starting on pole position with a 142.5, just a 10 separating him and Luca Gray, who rounds out the front row of the grid. Ewan Stitchbury in third position for Aura Motorsport Cymru, and Ryan Stringer will start alongside him. And then at the back, we have Lucas Chatterton for SM Corsa Racing.
And then in our GTE field, it'll be Andy Bootland starting on pole position. 4 tenths clear in the end in qualifying over Mauricio Marquez Ramos. What we will have, though, is Matthew Carmichael. He will be starting at the rear end of the field as well, at the back of that LMP1 field. So even though he wasn't on our grid there, he will be gridded up. Just no time on the board. Right then, 90 minutes is going to go on to our timing sheets as they will prepare to get themselves through the Hetzenbeck's Bogen at the back end of the track, turn number 13. They'll get themselves rolling away in just a moment's time, and we will get 90 minutes of racing underway. If any of our races previously have gone anything to go by, 2 pit stops will be coming your way in your classes as they will have to make their way around the circuit here at approximately 59 times in your LMP1 field. We head up towards the chicane to get ourselves started. They will be separating the fields up, and we will be keeping an eye on your LMP1 fields until your LMP2 fields and your GTE pair get underway at the start of this one. And I do say pair, there's only 2 of them. The smallest grid we have had this season, but there is no doubt that it's still going to be some great racing. We come up towards the final turn here, and it is going to be Jan Korbs who is in control of the pace. Is Julian Metzner alongside him as they come up. There's already an instant in the back of that LMP1 field. There's some damage, but we are green and away for 90 minutes of racing as we head down towards turn number 1. Your LMP2s have gone on in the background as well. We get onto the brakes, and Tony Dibden looking for the front of this field. Are we going to go 3 wide into turn 1? A number of cars having to scatter into the braking zone. Up towards our LMP2 fields, they are a lot more sensible. Ryan Stringer, though, looking to get past Stitchbury, does so on the exit. Stitchbury now alongside Chatterton. They settle themselves down, and in your GTE field, already single file with Bootland ahead of Ramos. As we jump back to your LMP1 field, it looks like Jan Korbs has been able to hold on, but Tony Dibden up 2 positions off the start line.
Yeah, it's a great start from Tony Dibden there. It's a very difficult car to get going. There's a hell of a lot of power in these cars. And so to be able to actually get off that traction onto the green flag was fantastic from Tony Dibden, made the move down into turn 1. We're seeing the cars starting to spread out a little bit already. It'd be interesting to see if this is as calm as it's going to get, or we're going to see that yo-yo effect into the first couple of laps.
Definitely, it could be some changing of positions, and it was Dominic Gallo who has some damage on the rear end of his machine after the launch in that class. We saw them sort of get away and then not get away in the LMP1 field, and it does mean that Gallo is going to be dealing with that damage. He does have a quick repair to help himself out, but he'll be hoping that he doesn't have to do that until his pit stop. It is Justin Stanek on the rear end of Julian Metzner, as that was Carmichael kicking up a little bit of gravel out of the final turn. But the LMP1 field have sort of settled themselves down, but not anymore, because that was Stanek Sorry, that was Metzner looking to get past Tony Dibden and move back into second position. Of course, that's where Metzner started, but he's fallen down to third position off of the opening lap of asking. Tony Dibden right now trying to maintain the gap of about 0.6 of a second to Jean Corbs as we come out of the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just gone back and had a quick look there. We can see that it was Matthew Carmichael that went into the back of Dominic Gallo. Just one car struggling to get off the final corner. A little bit of contact. There looks to be a tiny bit of damage. I don't think it's going to be something that will be too much in terms of the time loss. We'll have to see as the race goes on. But yeah, that was what happened off the final corner, the first lap.
Ewan Stitchbury is holding on to third position, but there was a change on position on the start of this race as well, as Luca Gray made his way past Charlie Devlin for what was a P number 9. And if we watch how that one occurred over the start-finish line, it was a good launch from Luca Gray. He was ahead over in towards turn number 1. He got to the inside of Charlie Devlin, and as we switch back across, Gray was firmly ahead and into the lead, and that is exactly what the man in P2 in the championship wanted to do. It was a moment for Devlin looking back up the inside of turn number 3 that he tried to make the move through, couldn't quite do it. We go back live though, because Julian Metzner gets up the inside of Tony Dibden at turn number 1. And that was a move that we will have another look at just here as we go up towards turn number 1. It was a little bit of extra power there from Metzner. We know these hybrids. We've seen the drivers move forward, move backwards, move up and down. And in this case, Metzner having the power along the timing line there, was able to duck it to the inside. Julian Metzner up into second position, which is where he started. Dibden started 4th, holds on to 3rd position right now, and then Stanek, who is only 0.4 of a second back, is looking to keep this fight at the front interesting, as we do have fights for your lead in all 3 classes, because even though there are only 2 GTEs in this race, Andy Bootland and Mauricio Marquez Ramos in your opening 3 laps of asking have been able to keep within half a second of each other, and this could be Marquez Ramos's chance to take a victory, preventing Bootland from what he's been so close, a 2nd or 3rd position. Is he going to miss out today when there's only 2 of them? He'll be hoping not. Back to your LMP1 field fight. It is Corbs ahead of Metzner, ahead of Dibden ahead of Stanek. The 4 drivers will be looking to see what they can do. They are thinking in the long run as well. Is Dibden going to have that extra power this lap that Metzner had last lap? Of course, the way that these cars work in qualifying, you basically do a push lap, a recovery lap, and another push lap. In the race session, however, you don't need to do quite as aggressive of that, and no benefits along the main straight from Tony Dibden. He'll remain in 3rd position as it stands. Luca Gray still holding on ahead of Charlie Devlin in your LMP2 field as well. It's been a relatively calm start here. We haven't had the usual opening lap instance, which I think is really good to see. And as we're 6 minutes into this race, we'll see our first pit stops in about 24 minutes. If you are splitting your strategies, which we have seen in the past, but it is going to be interesting to see what strategy is going to play out, especially when you've only got one other car to think about. That GTE field, it seems like the easiest field out there because there's only 2 of them, but do you think that's going to play more mind games on them, that they're thinking about maybe a little bit more on what that driver is going to be doing?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very much a case if you can get tunnel vision. If you're only fighting one car in class, you're either looking in your mirrors or you're looking straight through that windscreen at your only rival there. So it's in some ways...
I'm just going to have to step in for a moment here, because we got Dibden to the inside of Stanek, as Stanek managed to get his way through up that position. Dibden forces his way back through on turn number 13, and Stanek is not happy about it. He flashes his lights there. Will remain behind in 4th position. Dibden will maintain 3rd, but this looks like it is going to be a great fight going on for the podium. I apologise for stepping over you.
No, absolutely. It's a very forceful move there from Dibden, rubbing his racing. It's great to see these LMP1 cars getting their elbows out this early into the race. We were just thinking about whether or not cars are going to start thinking more tactically, saving fuel, and then straight away we start seeing battling straight after that point. So it's fantastic to see these two going at it here. We can see Sudenex actually catching up again to Dibden. I wonder if Justin's been able to get hold of a little bit more battery to maintain this push and attack on Tony Dibden going into the hairpin down at the bottom of the hill. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to make a move here. I've just been looking at the Andy Bootland and Maurizio battle while that was going on, and it does look like Andy's starting to stretch his legs out a little bit. 0.9 seconds of a gap between the two of them, but I do think when you're only fighting one car, you are living rent-free. If you're the car in the mirrors, you're living rent-free. You're constantly there in Andy Bootland's mirrors. I'd be struggling to maintain that focus as if I was compared to if I was in a pack.
Definitely, I think it is. You when you're racing just one other car, every move they make, every time they catch up to you, maybe a couple of tenths or lose off of you for a couple of tenths, it is going to be just in your mind, full in the very, very front of it. Right now, I'm looking at the front of your LMP2 field, which has been led by Luca Gray. Of course, Charlie Devlin has taken a fast lap and victory in both races that he's done so far. But we talk about the GTEs. They are getting into the mix right now. Jean Corbs held up by Marcos Ramos through the Mercedes arena, and what that does mean now is Metzner is all over the rear end. The gap came down to just a couple of tenths of a second. Is that going to help out Stanek, because he looks up the inside of Tony Dibden into turn number 6, but he has to remain behind. They've got another GTE to bypass. They've done so, but the GTEs, even though there's only 2 of them, have already had an impact in this LMP1 fight at the very front. The 2 fights that are going on for your lead and for your podium, of course. And those 2 separate fights, not only are fights on the track, as Sidonek goes to the right-hand side, he's definitely deploying more battery there. Dibden backs out of it and gives up that position as he's harvesting just a little bit more. We come out of turn number 12 now, and is this going to be Dibden going back for it? No, he stays a little bit further back right now, but he definitely lifted off. Stanek moves up to 3rd. These fights on track also fights for the championship as well. So each of these positions, they really do mean a lot in the short term for the race and the long term in the championship. At the end of this one, we will be halfway through. 1 drop week, of course, and here comes Dibden. Yet again, it's to the inside for Stanek. A little bit of a wobble there from Dibden. Didn't know which way to go, inside or outside. He's gone the outside. It's the long way round. Can he keep his nose in here through the Mercedes arena? It's just closed by Stanek, and Dibden will keep himself just behind at the moment. Stanek holding on to that podium position.
Yeah, it's firm but fair racing. While this is going on, I think we're going to see that Julian Metzner and Jan Corbs are going to be looking in that mirror and rubbing their hands together. Because while ever you're fighting, you're burning extra fuel, you're burning those tyres up. It's a long race. As we can see here that Dominic Gallo has just actually managed to get round the outside of, I think that's Julian Daniels there. That's a great move there. I wonder if Julian's going to be able to come back as we come down the hill. There's one final overtaking point coming down, but I think he's just going to be a little bit too far back. But while we're fighting at this point of the race, the tyre temperatures are going to be spiking. And so once you've started to get through that fighting phase, it's much more difficult to start catching up with the cars ahead of you. So Julian Metzner has managed to pull about a 2.5 second gap there in the last couple of laps. It's definitely played into the hands of the top 2 there.
It certainly has, and as we watch that fight, remember that Dominic Gallo was the driver that got the damage on the opening lap of Asking. He was rear-ended in the bottom by Matthew Carmichael. Carmichael is 5 seconds up the road from Gallo here. These drivers have dropped off of the leaders, of course, but even Carmichael didn't get a lap time in qualifying, had to start at the back of the LMP1 field. He is up right now, up into 5th, and that'll be a great result for Carmichael as well, because he's finished 9th position back in Spa, so only 22 points on the board for him. This would be a great amount of points for him. And as we were talking before, wondering who Seal was in the Discord, I figured it out now, because Matthew Carmichael racing under Seal Racing. That makes a lot of sense as we watch the number 6 machine navigating this circuit. And whilst the LMP1s have been fighting, Charlie Devlin has not given up time to Luca Gray here. And this is our LMP2 Classic field. They are the HPDs, of course. And I do love seeing these cars back out on track again. When I used to do endurance racing back in R Factor 2, it would always, whenever I had to go for a LMP machine, it was these type of machines. I love the open cockpit look of these cars. Of course, not used anymore for safety reasons, but what a beautiful machine. It is Devlin chasing down Gray, 0.3 of a second between them, and as they come across the timing line on the previous lap, Devlin was 0.4 faster than Gray. He is looking to take this fight to the race lead right now in the lead of your LMP2 field. It is fighting for championship points as well, because if Gray can beat Devlin to the punch here and take the fastest lap to boot as well, he will find himself in the front of the championship. As we come up to turn number 6, and it is still about 0.3 of a second here. That gap between Corbs and Metzner closing in once again, about half a second between them, but they are still single file as it stands. We head down to the bottom end of the circuit, turn number 8, that hairpin, that long right-hander, and for the time being, it looks like it will be, as I notice, Matthew Carmichael is out. It looks like he is out of the race. He's hit the wall. It looks like there might have been some sort of issue in the hardware side of things. Let's watch Matthew Carmichael. That was definitely full throttle, straight forward. It looks like a potential disconnect there for Matthew Carmichael, which is a real shame. He was moving up the order quite nicely. What it does do is promote the battles behind, though. Julian Daniels and Dominic Gallo, that fight we were seeing for P6, is now a fight for P5.
Yeah, I'm absolutely gutted for Matthew there. He was driving a fantastic race, but as is the same with real-life racing, we do see these technical errors. Cars break down in real-life racing, PCs break down, steering wheels break down in sim racing as well. So really unfortunate there. The back end of that of the pink car there of Dominic Gallo is not looking too pretty. But we can see here that Julian is catching up. Oh, he's gone wide. He's gone straight into the grass there from Julian. I wonder if he's just been caught napping there and just not seeing his brake marker. Is he getting closer to cars like that? Yeah, the back end has really stepped out and straight across the grass. He's done very well to collect that. It's so easy, particularly with how high the curbs are around the Vidal chicane, to not lose the car completely there.
Definitely. The fact that he was able to keep it on track as well. It was a little bit of a kick up on the grass. He ran over that higher curbing on the outside of the corner, but he did manage to keep it on track, which is surprising in itself, and he's only lost about a second to Dominic Gallo, but it does invite Ben Massey in here. Massey at the back of the LMP1 field still in this race, and he's running around in 7th, but now thinking that 5th position could be on the cards. And of course, for these LMP1 drivers that are normally finding themselves outside of the top 10, a evening of racing that doesn't have too many cars out there is going to be absolutely beneficial for them, because they are going to find themselves in some strong points. Dominic Gallo, 21 seconds behind your top 4 cars. That's just showing you how much pace our leaders have around this circuit. A change for 2nd position with Stitchbury off the circuit. What has happened to Ewan Stitchbury here as he's come through? He's all over the rear of Charlie Devlin. He's gone to the outside line and he's a wobble. It's just a wobble from Ewan Stitchbury, and what could have been a move for 2nd position finds himself spinning around down to 4th place now as Ryan Stringer gets onto the podium. A real shame for Stitchbury there, because he's running around in 8th position in the championship. He got 3rd position last week in his first race of the season. He was on for a third position here. Could have moved up to second. He finds himself around, though, and now has it all to do. What we do know from these LMP2 fields, though, if you do have an early mistake, just keep at it, because you have a great opportunity to find your way past other drivers as they have issues, especially in the pit stop stages. We've seen penalties, we've seen tyre changes when other drivers haven't changed tyres, we've seen too much fuel, we've seen not enough fuel. It is all about the strategy in the long races like this. That spin is going to have put Stitchbury on the back foot, but he is not out of this fight by any means.
Absolutely. Consistency is key for the rest of this race now for Stitchbury. You've had the mistake. The key thing now is to get that out of your mind, hit those apexes one at a time and see what happens. Let others make their own mistakes. Let them run their race. As we can see here that the leaders are coming up to the leader of the GTE field. This is
to the outside, though. Metzner to the outside of Jean Corbs. It was almost an overtake there as they were getting past the GTE, but Corbs gets that inside a little bit tighter, and it means that he's able to hold on to the lead. But that could have been a move for the lead of this race. It ended up being just a move past the GTEs, but look how close we were to the side on the outside there for Metzner. It tells us that Metzner's not just going to hang back here. He's not just going to settle back behind Jean Corbs and think, I'm just going to have this second position. He is looking at a potential win in this one. Of course, Corbs winning last week. He got a third position back in the opening round. He got a second position in round two. He's always had strong finishes, whereas if we look at Metzner's results, it was fourth position back at Silverstone. It was then a win at round number two. He wasn't here last week at Le Mans, so it is, well, last time out, I should say, at Le Mans. So it is getting back behind the wheel again and looking for a potential second win of the season. No repeat winners inside the LMP1 field at the moment. It looks like we will get that today in either Corbs or Metzner, and at the moment it's swinging the way of Jean Corbs. Ewan Stitchbury, we talked about him earlier, he's out of this race.
Yeah, that's right. That's really unfortunate for Ewan. I don't think it was a case of race over for him. If he'd have been able to stick out there, like we said earlier, these LMP2 cars really offer up a lot of drama through 2 hours of racing, or 90 minutes of racing as we've got tonight. But yeah, unfortunate for Ewan. It's a very easy mistake to make. We saw just before that it happening to Julian Daniels, where you hit the wrong part of the curb at the Viadel chicane and it can all go wrong. Where Julian was able to actually collect it. Ewan went round, but it didn't look like there was too much damage. Maybe a bit to the floor of that LMP2 car.
Devlin down pit lane. Charlie Devlin has come down pit lane. That is early. There is damage on the front end of Charlie Devlin here. There could be potentially issues for Devlin that has caused him to come down pit lane in all of this. But he has decided to pit, and that is early. It looks like he has got damage. Has he had that damage for a while, though? We go back a couple of laps here, and he has had that damage for a while. He's out already. That damage is repaired. Do you know what? I think Devlin picked up that damage. We saw that Stitchbury was gaining on him. Then Stringer was gaining on him. Was he perhaps just thinking, this damage is too much, I've got to pit now? He has taken that fast repair. He's back out on track here. He's fourth position, so just off of a podium position as it stands. He is 20 seconds away from that. But is he now going for a clean drive? And in the LMP2 field, I do believe that he has pitted late enough that he could go one more stop and get to the end.
Yeah, interesting for Charlie. I was just looking just to see if there was any contact between him and Stitchbury a couple of laps ago. It doesn't look like there was any contact, if that was where it was. Yeah, I'm very curious to see why Devlin's decided to pit at this moment in time. It didn't look like he was in for long enough to have got full set of tyres or anything like that. So yeah, a curious part of the race for the first pit stop. I'd be interested to see how that all plays out, whether or not we see any of the other LMP2s taking that as an opportunity now to also get in the pits. Maybe a bit of mind games potentially as well might start coming into play, as we can see Tony Dibden up in 4th place, only a second away from Justin Sudenek now, so that gap has eked out a little bit. Tony's going to be hoping to close that down over the next few laps before we see the LMP1s into the pits.
Indeed, I don't think that we would have seen any tyre changes. We don't see tyre changes very often in this series. However, what I am interested about is the fact that it didn't look like he was stationary enough to take a full tank of fuel either. So if he has pitted early, and as Tony Dibden throws himself off the circuit there on the exit of the Vidal chicane, he'll lose time over Justin Sudenek. It was just over-driving through the chicane, and it looks like we may have Matthew Carmichael back in this one. We certainly do. I mean, he's rejoined the track. He does have a meatball flag here to serve, because obviously he disconnected from that massive accident we saw. It's still showing as a meatball flag for him with a fast pair. I think he might just have to do an additional lap here and get that car repaired because of the way that he towed to the pit lane. But it is nice to see that Carmichael is getting back out. Yes, he's 4 laps down, but it's not over until it's over. He's still got an hour and 7 minutes. Anything could happen in front of him. So he has decided to get back out. And that being said, I'll take back what I said. It looks like he's had another disconnect, which is a real shame for him. It was an attempt to get back in, but it's gone away.
Oh, that's really disappointing. And I think what you can see there from Matthew is just the sheer determination we see in endurance racing, and this sort of multi-class racing is, you know, we look at Formula One. If you're a lap down, race over, you may as well retire the car sometimes. But when it comes to this multi-class proper racing, I call it, this is my bread and butter. It's all about making the finish line. Can you bring that car, no matter what state it is in, can you bring it to see that checkered flag? So fair play to Matthew for getting the car out. It's really gutting to see that he's had more connection issues there, because drivers like that deserve to see the checkered flag. Just like we're seeing Dominic Gallo here, had that contact before they even saw the green flag, and he's out there in 5th place, hammering laps in, just keeping competitive.
And with the way that we do run, of course, something that's slightly different to the real world racing. Once the drivers do get down pit lane, they can do one quick repair, which means that rear wing damage that he currently has on the back end of his car, when he does come down to stop, he can get it fixed. Now, that's going to be the question here. We'd mostly get 2-stop races. We've seen 2-stop races all season long in your LMP1 field, in all your fields, actually. But are we going to see an early pit stop from Gallo to get that wing repaired alongside a full pit stop? Or are we going to see potentially him run his normal strategy, wait until the very end of his tank of fuel in the first stint, and then come down pit lane and get it repaired? I mean, the damage doesn't seem to be hindering him. There's no way that this group, which is Gallo, Daniels and Massey, are going to catch up to your leading set of drivers. They are at 35 seconds up the road, so unless there is another penalty or crash between those guys, they aren't going to catch up there. 5th is what they're fighting for, and Gallo is not at a disadvantage here. He is looking and getting that pace, and again, we'll just reiterate, Matthew Carmichael, he's reconnected to the session here, so he is showing that pure determination that you get in these endurance races, these longer races. It's never over until it's over. And of course, if you finish 75% of the race laps, you will score points. So for Carmichael, his goal here is to get into 75% race distance, which around a circuit that is 59 laps. Here I go, top of my head, you're going to be looking at doing 45, yeah, 45 laps of racing in your LMP1 field will get you points. You can finish about 15 laps down from your race leader, still get points. So for Matthew Carmichael, who's about to fall 7 laps down, he still has opportunity here to take points for 8th position, which is a strong haul of points when you've only got a 9th position on the board so far.
Yeah, it's all about taking advantage of these nights where you might see less drivers out there. You've got to make sure you get to the finish line, bank those points, because whether it's you're going to have bad luck later on in the season, you've got to keep capitalising. You've got to make sure that you're making as many points every single week. As we can see that rear wing of Dominic Gallo. I was just having a look at Dominic's lap times, and his laps are slower than the rest of the field when we look at best laps. but it's not terrible. So I think if I'm Dominic, I'm not rushing into the pits here. I think sometimes it's very easy to see a bit of damage, especially when we've got fast repairs, to want to jump straight into the pits and get that repaired. But it's only looking like a couple of tenths a lap at the moment. So sticking to the strategy is probably the right idea here, as we can see this battle between first and second, Jan Korbs and Julian Metzner. Again, it's staying within a second. Julian's there. It's gonna be a real tight battle to the finish line. I think he's not leaving the rear view mirror of Jan Korbs over half an hour into the race nearly now.
Indeed, it's been incredibly close between these two as my connect. Do you know, I move every now and again, and the microphone disconnects it. I'm not going to stop moving. I'm frozen, but we are continuing on here, and yeah, it's that fight at the moment between these two. It has stayed. You know, it's opened up. The maximum distance I've seen between the two drivers has been about 2 seconds. But then it closes in again every now and again as well. But we do have a look back at this LMP1 fight, in that fight for fifth, because we talk about Gallo and Daniels. Of course, Ben Massey is not out of this fight either. He's only an extra 1.1 seconds back. He's definitely has the opportunity to get involved in that fight. You know, in that gap between Daniels and Gallo, actually, the same as the gap between Daniels and Massey. So as it stands, this is looking really like it could be close. But talking about close, we return to the very front of your field, because that is now the LMP2s that are going to get into the mix here. And it is Julian Metzner on the rear end of Korbs. Korbs goes defensive to the inside. Metzner holding the outside line here, but it's too wide for him to go. And a bit like it was earlier on when they were getting past the GTEs, that wider line not working out in the LMP1 machines. Jan Korbs putting his car exactly where he needs to. He keeps himself now half a second clear once more of Julian Metzner, and as the rest of your LMP1 field continue around the lap. I mean, they're going to be lapped in this race. There is no doubt about that, because they're only just coming through the chicane. That was Gallo getting a little bit of grass kicking up there. But this is where your fights are right now. Your gaps between your GTE leaders, 10 seconds, almost 11 seconds between Boutland and Marcos Ramos. Is 11 seconds between Luca Gray and Ryan Stringer. Remember that Charlie Devlin has already done a pit stop here. And with that being said, he has absolutely sliced the gap between himself and Chatterton, which was about 12 seconds, if I remember correctly, when he came out of pit lane. It's 4 seconds now. So Devlin has got pace out there. It is still a very far way away from getting back onto the podium where he was before. He's going to need to gain about 23 seconds to get back onto second position where he was before he came down pit lane. But right now, he is showing a lot of pace out there. The LMP1 fields are where the fights are, and that surprises me. I was talking to you, James, at the beginning, and I was like, the LMP2 field, that's where you want to watch, because that is where the fights are going to happen. But Korbs, Metzner, Stanek, Dibden, and then now Gallo, Daniels, Massey, they've just all said, actually, no, we'll make the LMP1 field the field that you need to watch on. It's been absolutely brilliant fighting from the fastest class, and I do say that's quite strange, because normally it's your slower classes that will get the wheel-to-wheel racing. Your LMP1s are going out there though and proving it doesn't just have to be the slow cars, they can have race-long fights.
Yeah, it's really great to see the LMP1s fighting like this.
Oh, that's a move!
Actually, there's going to be a move
to the inside there, and he holds it, and he gets it, but he gets onto the gravel, and he goes onto the grass. Julian Daniels tried to make the move past Dominic Gallo, and he overdrives the car, and Ben Massey moves up to 6th. That was a massive send, and it almost worked.
Ambition over adhesion there from Julian Daniels. It looked like it was going to be a great move to get the car stopped and turned that quickly after making a move like that offline. You're asking too much of the tyres, too much of the car to get that downforce through such a tricky corner anyway, let alone trying to make the move there, as we look at the replay of how this all started.
In fact, that's a bit too far back there. We'll go. Yeah. We'll go. Here we go.
There we go. Yeah, we can see. It does look like there was a bit of a the GTE might have got in the way a little bit, as a really aggressive move down the inside there. you're so compromised going into the Vidal chicane and just clips that sausage curb, and you're a passenger at that point. Really well to keep the car actually in a straight line and get back onto the Hyundai curve in one piece. Very easy to eat the tyre barrier at that point.
I would say as well that
racing.
He could have really made that work if it wasn't for that inside sort of. You say that sausage curb. I wouldn't say if it is a sausage curb in here, is it? Because it's not like that orange sleeping policeman you see otherwise. We ride on board with Ben Massey here, and you'll see that curbing on that outside there, that sort of that rounded point around the bollard. That just, it's a little bit higher than everywhere else, and it just caught it and it sent him off that circuit. I mean, without that there, he would have been into P number 5. That was a great move to the inside. He really risked it by diving to the inside line, but a great move, and it just wasn't meant to be. Throwing himself off the track, and now Julian Daniels at the rear of your LMP1 field. Not out of the race by any doubts, not out of this fight either. 1.3 seconds back. And the pit stops, which should be coming up very, very shortly, might make this interesting. Do you know what? If they can hold on for another 17 minutes, we could see our first one stop of the season. I don't think that these LMP1s have enough in their fuel tanks to go that, but this is the circuit with the most amount of lifting. I mean, we've had Silverstone, Spa, and Le Mans. Very power-heavy circuits. You're on the throttle a lot. Here at Nurburgring, you're off the throttle so much more than those previous tracks. They could save fuel to make this a one-stop.
Yeah, fuel saving is going to be huge here, actually. And I think if they hadn't have been fighting as ferociously at the start of the race, maybe they could have really eked it out to potentially a one-stop. We talked, as you said earlier, at the start of the broadcast, we thought it was going to be LMP2s that would provide the most drama, but it's been these LMP1 cars that have been fighting basically from the flag. So it'll be very interesting to see which of those cars has actually been able to... oh, we can see a move down the Vidal chicane there. Is that Ben Massey has just made the overtake? No, not quite.
Ben Massey stays behind Dominic Gallo, but he certainly looked to try and make that move, and he's still all over the rear as well. They've got the LMP2s in front of them, and we've also got that fight for Chatterton and Devlin, and that is the fight you see there right now. It is Charlie Devlin trying to get past Chatterton, but that was Gallo wide at turn number 1 in the mix of the LMP2s. It is a collection of cars right now as they come up through the Mercedes arena. It is Ben Massey keeping it to the inside. That's Julian Daniels behind. Let's go through. They're going to split Lucas Chatterton, and now this is going to be Charlie Devlin trying to get involved in this one. To the outside, as that is Julian Daniels stuck behind. He just doesn't know where to go. Slightly wide there from Devlin. Chatterton stuck on the outside now. Chatterton is going to keep it there, though. And here comes Daniels to go through. And that is Charlie Devlin up onto the podium in your LMP2 field. But the fight for 5th position in your P1s continue.
Lucas Chatterton will have been trying to simultaneously tuck his elbows in as the LMP1s flew either side of him, but also then get his elbows straight back out and try and fight against Charlie Devlin. It is an impossible task when you're one of those slower classes and you're already fighting for position, but you're well aware that you've got these much faster machines bearing down on you. It's very difficult to know where to place your car, particularly at a point in the track like the AMG Arena. He did a really good job there of keeping the car clean, keeping the front end clean. Yes, he's lost a place to Charlie Devlin there, but it could have been a whole lot worse. But for everybody as well, I think great driving all round. Ben Massey very nearly managed to take the position off Dominic Gallo through that position. But again, wanting consistency, wanting to make sure you keep the front of your car clean at this point in the race is probably the key to success longer term. But fantastic driving by everybody there.
Certainly was, and the fact that we had 5 cars in the same piece of tarmac there and 2 different classes, and they were all fighting out for positions, and they just didn't come together, just shows you the level of skill that's required for that, and it was brilliant driving for them all. Devlin does stay ahead of Chatterton now and is gapping Chatterton as well as he hunts down Ryan Stringer. But Chatterton has been running around really nicely. Of course, his best result so far has been a 6th position. He's done that twice at Spa and Le Mans. It was a 7th back at Silverstone, so he looks to go up the order into a 4th place here. And I mean, if there's any further issues in front of him, he could potentially have that podium by the end of the evening as well. So Chatterton just trying to keep it together. And you've been down on track with Lucas Chatterton as well. He's one of the drivers that you occasionally race with on a Sunday. So I think it's nice to see him towards the front of the field, even if it is only because there's 4 of them still racing in this one. As we come through the final corner here of Ben Massey chasing down Dominic Gallo. It is Gallo sitting 0.6 of a second clear. Julian Daniels is slowly dropping off the rear of this one. He got close in that gaggle of cars when we had the LMP2s. It's opened up a little bit more again here as we have got Daniels behind. But now as it stands, just so we are fully clear of this, the LMP 2s are now 2 laps behind your LMP1s, but your race leaders are looking to try and make them 3 laps down because it is in the same camera shot. There, our camera just pans across, and as the battle for 5th is leaving the Mercedes arena, the leaders are coming into the Mercedes arena. This continues to be your fight for P5. It's Dominic Gallo. It's going to be Ben Massey to the outside. Massey going to try and take it the long way round through turn number 8. It is side by side, but it is going to be speed for Gallo. And Gallo has just been a master of defensive driving during the course of this race right now. He is holding on to 5th position like his life depends on it. He holds on, 2/10 clear, coming through turn number 12 and onto the Hatzenbecks-Bogen here, up towards the Vidal chicane. Ben Massey chasing down Dominic Gallo, but Gallo is just doing enough in the 39 machine to keep it ahead, and Gallo down pit lane. He's going to pit, 51 minutes left on the board. It will be a 2-stop strategy, surely, for Dominic Gallo. He comes down pit lane. He's the first of our LMP1s to pit. It is Julian Daniels who comes in behind. We've got our first pit stops.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very much a case of doing a lot of fuel saving if Dominic Gallo is going to turn this into a one-stop. He's been defending fantastically. I think that damage on the rear wing seems to have made his car twice as wide so far in the first 40 minutes of the race. Some brilliant racing. Ben Massey didn't have a qualifying session that he would have necessarily been happy with, but we've seen that race pace really come alive through this first 40 minutes of racing as Ben's running around in 5th. I wonder what his fuel saving's been like. He stayed out there for an extra lap. Can he stay out for an extra 2 or 3 laps as we come through and start to see these LMP1s leave pit lane?
We've also got some of the leaders down pit lane. Julian Metzner, Justin Stanek are down at pit lane. Tony Dibden pitted a lap ago. But you've got to remember, these drivers are a lap ahead of the first set of LMP1s we saw pit. And Jean Corbs is still out there right now. So where we saw Dominic Gallo and Julian Metzner pit after 24 laps of asking, Jean Corbs here is on his 26th lap of asking. Surely he'll be down pit lane, but I don't think they're going to save enough. But with Jean Corbs pushing as hard as he is and as far as he is here, he could take it very easy at the end to either save fuel or do the world's quickest splash and dash to keep himself out at the front. But how is this pit stop going to play out for Jean Corbs as he moves across to the right-hand side into the final corner? And Jean Corbs now will be down pit lane. Julian Metzner is out down at the end of the lap. The bottom of the lap. It's through turn number 8. Will he be able to close that 42-second difference between the two of them?
Yeah, it's not often talked about, but the pit entry when you're actually getting ready for a pit stop actually can become a huge challenge for a lot of these drivers, and particularly at the Nurburgring Grand Prix layout. it's a very difficult entry where you've got that Armco barrier. So whether or not drivers take that easy or not, do you want to actually add an element of risk to gain a few tenths, could really be the difference as to whether or not a driver can jump the other in the pit stops. Let's see where Jan Korbs comes out here. Julian Metzner's coming down the main straight now. He's going to be looking straight to the right-hand side to see Jan Korbs coming out into turn 1 already. So Jan's, you can see the power of that extra lap of fuel saving there. That's eked it out to about 3.84 seconds maybe now even there. So that's fantastic bit of driving from Jan, not only to be quick, one of the quickest drivers out there, but also to have fuel saved that much is very, very impressive, as we see Tony Dibden coming through now on his second lap of the stint so far.
Definitely, and he's dropped 9 seconds to Justin Stanek here. So he's had a very slow pit lane, and of course he's had issues in pit stops before. You talk about the challenge of pit entry. We think back to Spa for Tony Dibden, because he was running around for a potential podium in that race, what would have been his first podium of the season following a 13th place result with Silverstone. But he came in just a little bit too hot, and he got the entry a little bit wrong. It meant he got a penalty for his pit entry. It held him there for almost an entire lap in the pit lane. He didn't have that here today, but again, a slow stop here. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run. Are we going to see drivers who have been able to benefit from this pit stop right now, and it will play out? Is it going to be those longer pit stops maybe coming on to help out in the later stages? We've had issues for the second place driver in your GTEs. Mauricio Marquez Ramos heads up towards turn number 1, and whoa! That was a big lock-up on the rear end there. The whole of the car stepping itself around, but it turns opposite to the racing line, which when you lock up like that, it's almost like you have your wheel turns slightly, so the whole car turns that direction. But there was no reason for him to have his car turn to the left, so that is a very odd spin. It was going quite slow anyway, but yeah, the way that car just turned around there, maybe he's just messing around a little bit with brake bias, perhaps, because for that to just suddenly happen almost halfway through a 90-minute race is a strange one. Whilst we talk about that, though, we do have to keep an eye. We talked about the fact that the pit stops have changed up the fights. They've really opened out the battles at the front. What it has not done is open up your battles here. Julian Daniels definitely having issues in pit lane because he's 12 seconds back now. But Dominic Gallo has fallen behind Ben Massey in the pit stops, and Massey now up to 5th position, but Gallo is not letting him have that position easily, and he flies by along the main straight there, and he gets to the inside of Marcos Ramos there. Ramos going very wide into turn 1 to make sure there is more than enough space for your LMP1 drivers, but Dominic Gallo there, a lot of speed along the main straight, up back into P5, but that was Massey. Very close to rear end, and after Gallo repaired his rear wing, he was almost about to have identical damage. Fortunately, the cars don't come together, and it is, once again, to Ben Massey's dismay, the number 39 machine ahead of the 53, but he's going to have another opportunity, surely. Down here, as it's going to be defensive from Dominic Gallo. We know they're running those hybrid cars, the hybrid batteries, sorry, so the cars are going to be faster at different points on the track depending on how they are deploying them. You can see that on the exit of the hairpin because Gallo was just getting that, was just getting caught there from Ben Massey. We come up towards turn number 11, and for the time being, Dominic Gallo stays ahead, but surely Massey is going to have another go at it because he was saving his hybrid all the way along the main straight. That's why Gallo was so fast. Is Massey going to have the speed this time as we come up towards the main straight in the fight for P5 that has been the biggest fight of them all? And tell you what, if Gallo or Massey wanted to see themselves on the big screen at any point this season, this is the race to share it. Go book out with cinema, get it up there, because this has been absolutely top-class racing.
This has been fantastic. I was just about to say it's the first time we're going to see Dominic Gallo actually have a car that's fully intact, so we get to see his true race pace, and Ben Massey nearly made that rear wing into origami again, into the Mercedes AMG arena. It got very, very tight, but again, we've seen some really clean racing overall. Just looking back at that Maurizio Marquez Ramos incident, I have never seen a car go to the left-hand side that violently at that corner. Be great to sort of hear from Maurizio after the race as to what happened there. Brake bias must be the explanation for that. I have never seen a car behave like that. As you can see, Charlie Devlin here in second position now.
Yeah, that was Ryan Stringer, who's just come down pit lane on this lap, promoting Devlin to the front. But what that does tell you, Luca Gray still out there on this stint. Ryan Stringer has pitted this lap. Chatterton pitted only 4 laps ago. The LMP2s here can do a one-stop, as can your GTEs, because they're yet to pit. It will just be your LMP1s that will be pushing it. But what that does mean is Charlie Devlin here is at a huge disadvantage. But look at the interval to Ryan Stringer. Surely 30 seconds is going to be a big enough interval here for Charlie Devlin to maintain a lead, second position perhaps. I don't think he's going to get past Luca Gray. Gray has just been running, oh my word! Oh. That was really, really close there. Coming down pit lane for Charlie Devlin, and I believe that was, who was that going past there? It was for Stanek. That's your podium sitter of Justin Stanek there. Charlie Devlin does do his pit stop. Definitely not doing didn't do any fuel earlier. That has to be, he only pitted for damage, because now he's pitting for that. No, that was, sorry. Okay, sorry, that was a change in lead. That's because Luca Gray was also down pit lane. That confused me for a moment there. Luca Gray now comes out, will be back in the lead. But yeah, Devlin didn't do fuel earlier. He's going for the one stop as well. There's no doubt about that. He just had to fix the damage earlier on in the race, and there is support over in the Aztec YouTube chat for Charlie Devlin and for Ryan out there as well, running under the Scorpio Esports banners, of course. So here we are watching Charlie Devlin. He returns back out on track, and we've got to remember those gaps earlier. Remember, Devlin had to pit with damage. He's only 10 seconds off of Ryan Stringer. Stringer is only 4 seconds off of Luca Gray here. Charlie Devlin, who had to pit for damage earlier on in this race, is 15 seconds away from getting back into the race lead. And I think if that doesn't tell you endurance racing is about sticking it out till the end, I don't know what will.
Yeah, Charlie Devlin's been absolutely rapid. He's got the fastest lap so far in the LMP2 class by a few tenths now at this point. So yeah, you're right, it's consistency, and it's also just that grit and determination. As you can see, Lucas Chatterton's going around there. It's a very difficult corner. I've done that many a time. That's more of an indictment, though, on my skill, I think, than anything that I do that a lot. But yeah, we can see here that Charlie Devlin has had an issue, gone into the pits, got it sorted, as we talked about earlier, being able to get that to the back of your mind and start pumping in lap after lap, and he's been rapid. Fantastic drive so far from Charlie.
And don't forget, they'll get those extra bonus points on the board as well. And before we have a look at our live standings, we will try to get, I will try to get those, the bonus points on the board. So you might get a little bit of a throw up on the screen right now, as you occasionally do. No, it's going to go on a different screen, so you're all good to see. We'll look at getting the bonus points on the board as well for you guys, so you can see what the championship standing will be, because at the moment the 5 bonus points will be going the way of Charlie Devlin in that class for the fastest lap, as he is running fastest lap currently 0.2 of a second quicker than Luca Gray, as Chatterton's day just continues to go badly, as he obviously had that spin earlier on. He will now have to come down pit lane to serve a penalty, but it's still going to be a 4th place. Even if he's 3 laps behind, it's still a 4th place for Lucas Chatterton, which would be astronomical for his championship. As he comes down pit lane, he will serve that penalty.
Yeah, it's all about making the most out of these smaller fields, and yeah, it's unfortunate for Lucas. He was running a really good race, and it just seems to have unravelled slightly for him in these last few laps. But But yeah, sticking out there. Let's get to the end, Lucas, and bag those points, because it's going to be huge for him in the championship standings. It's so tight in the midfield of the LMP2 cars. You can make a lot of positions up with a top 5 position. It's interesting. I was just looking at Ben Massey. He is sticking with Dominic Gallo. Now that Dominic's got that damage repaired, I was wondering whether or not Dominic would be driving off into the sunset. But Ben's race pace has been there all evening. It's been fantastic from Ben. So when we look at anything below a 1 second gap in these LMP1s in multi-class racing, that can change in one corner. You get to the traffic at the wrong point, you have to back off on a corner exit, and all of a sudden you're under attack again. So this isn't over for Ben to get a top 5.
Certainly not, and he has still got 38 minutes to try and find his way towards that front of that order there, and I think he has a great opportunity to be able to do that. As we look at the LMP2 standings, Charlie Devlin is getting 45, not 40 points from this with those 5 additional bonus points, but he will be 5 points clear of Luca Gray as it stands with those bonus points in hand. If Luca Gray was able to steal away the fastest lap in the next 38 minutes, he would be getting the extra 5 bonus points and would be 10 points clear of Charlie Devlin. But as it stands, Devlin will maintain the lead of your LMP2 class if it was to end the way that it is right now. And we watch that fight in your LMP1 field as well. They are your live standings as it stands just over halfway through this race. And Jean Corbs is looking to pull a dominant lead in that one, 28-point advantage almost. But of course, with 55 points on the board each race, 28 points looks like a big gap, but in the end of it, if Corbs misses misses a race, that's going to be a lot of points off the board for him. He is dropping a 3rd place result right now, though, because it is his worst result of the season. Verdonk is falling down into 3rd position in the championship. Not here today, but he does get the drop points back of 34, and Dibden right now will be hoping to do a little bit better than 4th, because with him running around in 4th position on the track, Stanek, it will only be 2 points behind him in the championship. Then I said earlier on, the fights on track are also your fights for the championship inside your LMP1s. That is exactly what I mean. And I think we also, whilst we're just looking through, we'll have a look at your GTEs, because Bootland is out there, and because he is out there racing, he's going to find himself in the lead of your GTE championship no matter what at the end of this one. As long as he finishes the race, he will find himself at the top of that order. And Mauricio Marquez Ramos, who currently sits 8th in the championship, will find himself all the way up in 4th. That is because the drop rounds in your GTE fields are mostly races that drivers have not attended. And with that being said, Andy Bootland has just completed his pit stop in this race, and Mauricio Marquez Ramos has come down pit lane as well. So they are, the GTEs have decided to make their stop. They're about 55 minutes through this race. They'll be going the final 36 minutes here to get to the end of that one. There is about 30 seconds between them. So unless there is any issues with other cars getting past them.
Charlie Devlin's just gone off.
He has.
Charlie Devlin's had a spin.
And let's have a look at what's happened then for Charlie Devlin. He was in 3rd position, and he stays in 3rd position. But it is, just a little bit too wide through the exit of the Ford curve. Just keeps it out of the barrier, but you can see how quickly he tried to get that one back going again. And what was a 15-second gap to your leaders is now a 15-second interval to 2nd position. The driver who is showing great pace out there. He's already had damage that he's had to repair. That's not what he would have hoped for.
No, I was looking at the lap times, and Charlie was actually looking like he could potentially have caught Ryan Stringer towards the end of the race. He was about 6 or 7 tenths a lap quicker than the front 2 drivers. So that would have been a monumental drive from Charlie to have already come in for damage and then to have caught the leading 2. But yeah, it's very difficult on some of these corner exits. These LMP2 cars sit so low to the ground that these curbs feel like, for those that drive road cars in the UK in particular, you think about what it's like to hit a pothole at 30 miles an hour, add 100 miles an hour to it, and stick your car on the ground. That's how that's going to feel. Trying to keep hold of something like that is very, very difficult, and it's a real game of inches at high speed. Really unlucky for Charlie, but great to see him keep it out of the barriers to maintain that third position.
Tell you what's going on here in P number 5 and P number 6. There's a bit of a yo-yo gap going on between Dominic Gallo and Ben Massey at the moment. Of course, those hybrid machines in these classic LMP1 machines does mean that drivers are deploying their hybrid boost a little bit differently around the lap. What it does mean is Ben Massey right now is half a second behind Dominic Gallo, but about 6 corners ago he was about 1.2 seconds behind. He's now 0.4 of a second, 0.3 of a second, 2.5 of a second behind, and now it opens up again. 0.5, 0.6, almost 0.7 of a second. It is a yo-yo between these two drivers as they do fight it out, and it is about the deploying. Of course, these endurance races, it's about strategy, but in these old LMP1 machines, which are nice to see them out on track again alongside those HPDs, alongside the GTEs, it is an additional bit of strategy that for some drivers they'll be used to. They used to race these LMP1 machines in endurance races back in the day when they ran around on iRacing. For others, it is a new system to learn, and right now Ben Massey is trying to do better at it than Dominic Gallo as they catch onto the rear end of one of our HPD machines, our LMP2 Classics. They're also getting onto the rear end of, I think, that might, I'm trying to figure out who that might be there. As that was extremely close, wasn't it? Between Gallo and... oh, that's contact! It is contact! And that is going to be Ryan Stringer around! That crucial for Charlie Devlin, because Ryan Stringer has just been hit by your LMP1 field, and it does mean now that he is going to have to recover that. The gap now to Charlie Devlin, 0.8 of a second. Devlin himself has got some LMP1s making their way through. That was Tony Dibden there making his way through in all of that, but contact for Ryan Stringer. Let's have another look at that one, because he is not going to be impressed after this.
No, we talked about this in pre-race, that this section of corners is going to be extremely difficult to keep it clean. We can see there, Ryan just ran a little bit wide. There's not room really for 2 cars easily to get through there. Pure racing incident, I think it's very difficult to go through at speed. Luckily, it doesn't seem to be too much damage to Ryan. When you're hitting a car on the back right like that, it's so easy for the suspension to give way, but it does look like that Scorpio Esports car is back up and running absolutely fine. We'll keep an eye on his lap times. We can see Ben Massey into the pits now. I wonder if this is for damage or if this is just for fuel. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on what happens here.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on how long Ben Massey is down. This could be... It is a fast repair on the way of Ben Massey. Is it going to be that fuel to get him to the very end as well? That was very quick. That is definitely going to be his damage repair. He would have picked up maybe something from that knock, deciding, first of all, let's not get stuck behind Dominic Gallo. Let's take advantage of an early pit stop here. Everyone is going to have to do an extra pit stop in your LMP1s, we believe, for a splash and dash for just an extra 5 minutes of racing. Ben Massey does it with 30 minutes left on the board, which does mean if he does have another issue further up ahead, he will be losing out by pitting for a 3rd time. But could this help him out in his fight between himself and Dominic Gallo? What it does mean is we take a bit of a breather out there on the racing track after having what was a 60 minutes with drivers, well, at least one set of drivers no more than a second apart from each other. We settle ourselves down as we head into the final half an hour of the race, and it has been an action-packed race as well. And in fact, we will have a little bit of a review on some of our incidents in this race as we set 60 minutes in, because we have had a good one, of course. Early doors, we saw Ewan Stitchbury having issues. He was looking to try and make the move past Charlie Devlin, and that was the snap of oversteer that sent him around. Lucas Chatterton then had his own spin as well, as we saw. Do you know, I thought this was happened a lot later on, and I think that actually was the first time that Chatterton went around on lap 13, because I think we saw something similar later on in the race as well. This was that strange snap of well, I don't even know what's called. I would say oversteer, but it's just the staying snap. The car swings to the left-hand side up towards turn number 1 from Mauricio Marquez Ramos. That was all the way back on lap 23. Then we saw Lucas Chatterton. Oh, do you know what? This is looking like we are going back to lap 13. No, this is lap 27. Chatterton having what was genuinely identical. it looks identical. It looks like I've gone and watched the same issue. It was not. It was a separate issue, 2 spins. This was when Charlie Devlin threw away what could have been a potential charge for the victory. He went around and almost went into the wall, but you can just see how quickly he tried to get that going again. What has invited him back in with an opportunity for second, though, was this latest bit of contact. Ryan Stringer on the inside, Ben Massey on the outside. There was the contact. And with that being said, did Ben Massey look like he's... Do you know what? He went really slow there. It looks like he did pick up damage out of that one for Ben
Sorry
Massey.
to butt in. Charlie's just gone round again down at the bottom of the hill. He's only lost a couple of seconds, but he'd eked that out to around about a 5-second gap, really chasing down Ryan Stringer, and then has just lost it coming down the hill at the bottom of the hairpin. Managed to recover quite quickly, as we'll see here. Just a little bit too much curb, I think. A little bit too much speed. Back end overtaking the front end there for Charlie Devlin.
Just a bit of oversteer in the middle of the corner, and for Devlin it means the gap now opens up to Ryan Stringer. 8 seconds between them, 9 seconds even as he comes to end the lap. And you wouldn't say that it is impossible for Charlie Devlin. He does have the pace now, but 9 seconds into what is going to be about 15 laps of asking for these guys in your LMP2 class. That is going to be a lot to ask. It's going to be about half a second per lap that he's going to need to gain with no issues. Ryan Stringer now knows that he's got that breathing space behind him once more. Is he going to take it easier? Is he going to take it easier when he's got some LMP1s overtaking him? We'll have to find out, because he's about to be overtaken once more, and it is the number 53, Ben Massey. They were the ones that came together through turn number 6 last time. They stay nicely far apart in between turns 7 and 8, and that is going to be Ben Massey. He is trying to go through to the end of the race now. He is pitted for the last time, whereas the rest of your LMP1 drivers are going to be needing to do some splash and dashes. Julian Daniels looks like he have had some issues here trying to get past. Who is that he's trying to get past? It looks like it might have been Ryan Stringer. He goes wide through turn number 11 there, gets himself back going again, and then does re-overtake the LMP2 machine, and he does that up towards the chicane. He sticks it to the inside line towards the chicane. And does he keep it on the track this second time of asking? He certainly does. Lights flashing there from the LMP2. Not happy that he's had to give up time twice in that one. And crucially, it's so common in this series for penalties to come into the fights. And it is going to be even more bad luck going the way of Charlie Devlin. He's closed that gap up to Ryan Stringer from 9 seconds to 7.5. But he will have to come down pit lane. It is not the first time instant limits have pulled out penalties. We think to Silverstone, and all bar, I think, 5 drivers on our grid of 30 ended up getting drive-through penalties. Charlie Devlin is going to have to come down to do a penalty here at the Nurburgring. He will keep it in 3rd position, but every single time he sees 2nd position getting closer, something goes wrong for Charlie Devlin. And after pitting early for damage, his contention for the lead of this championship is slowly disappearing. He is still holding on to the overall best lap, but we have to say that Luca Gray has been trying to steal that apart. The difference in their fastest laps is just 1/100th of a second. Luca Gray's best lap being a 43.158. Devlin's a 43.148. So right now, Devlin is taking the extra 5 points for the bonus points, but he is going to be finishing this one in 3rd if he can get it towards the end of this race. It keeps on going wrong for Charlie Devlin.
Yeah, I was looking at those lap times from Luca Gray, and we can see he's really starting to push now to try and really twist the knife there for Charlie. he's had a really good race apart from a few small moments, and that's really what we see in endurance racing. Is it's what always you see getting very sideways on pit entry there, and I think we might need to look at potentially speeding in the pit lane there, as we can see Charlie getting a real swapper, getting the car slowed down into pit lane there. Endurance racing is about two things. It's about keeping speed, of course, but the main thing is consistency. And 1 or 2 spins in a race can really be the difference maker in a 90-minute race. Really unlucky for Charlie there. Now, it does look like he's going to have comfortably kept 3rd place with a couple of the issues that we've seen from Lucas Chatterton with those copy-paste spins earlier in the race that's kept Lucas about sort of 20 seconds back. But again, we're only 1 spin away from that gap. Really closing in there. Unlucky for Charlie. He needs to park that, get it out of his mind, and get to the finish line. Potentially go for that fastest lap, because there's that gap between Lucas Chatterton and himself. He does have a bit of breathing room to maybe take some calculated risks and go for that fastest lap. Should Luca Gray be faster?
Big old wobble there coming out of turn number 7, though, almost collected by your LMP2 third place sitter of Justin Stanek in the number 5 machine. But yeah, he could pit again, put on a fresh set of tyres. I think there's enough gap between himself and Chatterton to be able to do that. You can see him having another little bit of a wobble there. Is that him trying to get his tyres back up to working temperature here, or is he just struggling to keep that car facing the right way? Of course, Devlin, he's gone for a win, a fastest lap in his first round of the season that he competed in at Spa. He went for a win and fastest lap last time out at Le Mans. The fastest lap is still going his way at the moment, only just ahead of Luca Gray. But the win is going to fall short for him today. And I think it's almost a step back into reality that this series is not going to be a dominant, definitive run for Charlie Devlin that will keep him all the way at the front and he'll run away with the championship points. It's showing that it is, just like individual races, the whole championship is an endurance. There are 8 rounds, only 1 of those are dropped. And for Devlin, he is dropping the result of finishing, not attending, Silverstone. However, if you look at Luca Gray is currently dropping a 2nd position finish. So if he does have a poor race or he misses a race, he's going to still get 45 points back onto the board. So there is a huge advantage the way of Luca Gray in this championship, even though Devlin is going to be leading it out of this one if he holds on to this 3rd position, which right now, I mean, he's 51 seconds clear. He should be able to. With each of the championships, they have opened themselves up with 21 minutes on the board, but even in the second phase of this race and ending up towards the last 20 minutes here, anything can happen. We saw that Devlin, he's gone around a number of times. We saw Stringer contact with Massey, and don't forget, we should be seeing your LMP1s doing another splash and dash towards the end of this race. Ben Massey, however, does not need to do that splash and dash. He is on the charge to get back past Dominic Gallo when the time comes for them to pit. He's only 12 seconds behind Julian Daniels here. Remember, Daniels was the original driver battling it out with Dominic Gallo before he went deep at the chicane, sending himself over that inside sausage curb and down into 7th position. Matthew Carmichael, the only driver out in your LMP1 field. Connection issues. He did try 3 times to get himself back out on track, which shows the perseverance. It was not to be, though, for the American. And Ewan Stitchbury went out early doors in your LMP2 field as well after trying to get past Charlie Devlin. He spun it at the final turn. He then came down pit lane. And I have to say, it was a very respectful way to end the race. He drove his car all the way down to pit lane. He even came all the way to his box. And then he just decided that was enough. He wasn't going to take the car home. It does mean no points on the board. And if he finished, even if 5th, he would have taken a very strong amount of points. So it just matters about getting to the end on races like this where you don't have too many cars out there. It does matter about getting to the end, because in next week, when we head out for the 5th round of competition, I mean, our LMP2 field, we normally look at about 18. Well, we had 18 cars at the first round. We had about 16 in the next two, so we've always had very big fields. That would have been a great opportunity to get points for Matthew Carmichael, connection issues stopping him. The LMP2 fields, you're normally looking at about 10 cars in each of those fields. So again, a 5th position for Stitchbury would have been great when he didn't attend the first 2 races and he only got a 3rd. Well, only a 3rd. He got a podium. It was a strong result last time out, but he could have had more points on the board for 5th. It just shows you've got to stick with it, even if your race isn't going well. Lucas Chatterton, take him into account. He is sitting 51 seconds behind Charlie Devlin. He is sitting a whole lap behind class leader Luca Gray, but he is putting the laps in the board, and he is going to get points for 4th position. If we remind yourselves of the live championship order with 20 minutes left to go inside your LMP2 field, it puts Chatterton into 4th position in the championship, even though he is running there a lap down in last in class in a small field of drivers. Every position really does count because you have to finish within 75% of your race leader.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame for you and not making it to the end there. It's a disheartening moment though when you're 10 laps into a race and all of a sudden you realise you've got no chance of even making one position, let alone getting the win. It takes a lot to sit and drive for another 80 minutes at the end. I've had it a couple of times where myself and other teammates have had an issue early on in the race. I actually had one at the Nurburgring where my teammate stayed in his car because it was changeable weather, and so we used him as a sighter for tyres. Worked out really well, but with you and not having a teammate in this race, there's not sort of that team gamesmanship that we can play, as we see Charlie Devlin really struggling again with the rear end of that car there. Those rear tyres must be extremely overheated if he hasn't changed them at all through the race. About 12 seconds, 13-second gap now between Charlie and Lucas Chatterton. Let's make sure that Charlie can make it to the end in 3rd place there.
Definitely. Jean Corbs, who's been leading this race all race long, is maintaining about 3.6 second advantage over Julian Metzner. But I am looking at lap times because Jan Corbs' last lap time was a 34.3, whereas Metzner's was a 32.7. A massive change. And Justin Stanek's last lap time was a 39. There's just a huge change in all of their lap times around here right now. But as it stands, Julian Metzner has closed up to about 4 seconds behind Corbs. And I believe now I can figure out why those lap times were so for Stanek. He has pitted, so did Dibden. So your leading 2 drivers surely will be down the pit lane this time. Metzner certainly, and I think we'll see Corbs within a lap or 2 come down pit lane. But is this going to open up now the fight as we look here from Gallo? Is he going to come down pit lane? Because remember, Ben Massey is looking to try and get back past once Gallo comes down pit lane as well. But we do see Dibden and Stanek pitting, as Charlie Devlin has actually come down pit lane again as well. We talked about Devlin potentially pitting again, put on a fresh set of tyres and take in that fastest lap. The reason he'll be wanting to do that is because Luca Gray has stolen it away from him. Luca Gray right now, a 43.102 compared to Devlin's 148. Means that Luca Gray will be taking 55 points and will be leading the championship by 5 points out of this one. Charlie Devlin will be looking to try and take that back. He has made an additional pit stop, a fresh set of tyres, a low fuel tank. He'll just be hoping that these LMP1s get past him nice and quickly and he can get in a potential fastest lap of the race before the end of this one. As we look with 15 minutes to go for your LMP1 field, it'll be about 10 more laps of racing action.
Yeah, this is basically a qualifying session now for Charlie. Can he get those tyres up to temperature? We've got nice low fuel. It's going to be a fun car to drive now. It's not often in an endurance race towards the end you can push as hard as Charlie will want to push, even knowing that the podium is more than likely in the bag. I just want to call out, it's some good driving from Dominic Gallo. Ben Massey eked out an extra lap in the first stint versus Dominic Gallo, and Dominic's been able to stay out there that little bit longer. So some really good fuel saving from Gallo in this second stint, whilst eking out that bit of extra time. Now, obviously, we've got that That damage was repaired, so we're seeing a faster version of the car than we did in the first stint. But Dominic's having a really good race, particularly in this second half. I'd expect him to be coming in the next
I would
lap
say
or two.
4 laps time. Looking at how long they ran in that first one, I think they could go an extra 4 laps. I think the pit stops that we are getting from Stanek, Dibden, have been early stops, because we still see Gallo, Daniels out there. We still see Corbs and Metzner out there. And I'm looking back now. I think they pitted about lap 25, lap 26 for these drivers.
Right, yeah.
So I do think they've got a few more laps still under their belt, trying to push it as far as they can. I think the early pit stops from Stanek and Dibden are purely to get that pit stop out of the way, make up any issues or mistakes that they may have done. And I think that Dibden might have only come down pit lane himself because Stanek had jumped down pit lane. But with that being said, with Stanek and Dibden back down pit lane, neither of them have picked up any damage. I thought Stanek might have done with how close he was getting to some of the HPDs earlier in the race. But they haven't used their quick repairs. They're keeping them in the bank just in case something goes incredibly wrong. But inside your LMP1 field, we've watched this fight all race on, these fights that have been going on. There's only actually been one change of position from the start grid, and that is Dominic Gallo started in 6th, whereas Julian Daniels started in 5th. They have swapped around, and I think that just doesn't tell you the story of the race, does it? It just does not tell you all the racing that has been going on in this LMP1 field, especially for this top 5 position. Your LMP2 field, that shows you all the changes that have happened. Luca Gray up 1, Ryan Stringer up 2, Devlin down 2, Chatterton up 1, Gallo down pit lane. This is going to be interesting because this is going to be crucial. Where is he going to come out in comparison to Ben Massey? Massey has lost time to Julian Daniels though, and he's very recently lost a little bit of time here for Ben Massey. It says that he was running slowly. What happened here? That is not what the man who was trying to chase down Dominic Gallo would have wanted. He pitted 11 laps ago. Gallo comes to a stop as he sees his teammate there of Marquez Ramos exiting pit lane, both of them running for the Gumi Designs. Here comes Ben Messi round the final corner. He will exit the final turn now. This is Gallo making his way down towards turn number 1, and for Ben Massey, he will get past Julian Daniels, but the gap up to Dominic Gallo here, 4 seconds between them. That is not what he would have wanted, and he threw away probably a good 2 seconds of those running wide. He dispatches Andy Bootland extremely quickly there through the Mercedes arena, but for Ben Massey, he wanted to take the fight to the end, did the undercut in the pit stop. He's running around right now in 6th position, 4 seconds behind Dominic Gallo. Can he close it up in the next 11 minutes of racing? We also see a massive gap now between Corbs and Metzner, because Metzner has come down pit lane here. He came down a lap earlier than Corbs in the first stint. He's going to come down a lap earlier here. Are we going to see that slightly longer running from Jean Corbs play out to his benefit once again? Remember, he opened the gap by 4 seconds in the first pit stop strategy. Is it going to happen again for this final splash and dash? We should see Jean Corbs in this time around, and he should come back out in front of the order. But every time they come down pit lane, you mentioned earlier, James, is a challenge, because you could always end it speeding into pit lane, throwing it into the barrier. Anything and everything can go wrong, but for Jean Corbs, as he dispatches Andy Bootland, it should be down pit lane. This time of asking to take himself home with 10 minutes to go. He stays out. Corbs will go around for yet another lap of action here. The overcut, as we'll call it, worked out really well for him in the first pit stop. Will it happen again here in the second pit stop? Julian Metzner will be trying to do his best. 35 seconds back right now.
Yeah, it's been a really strong drive from Corbs from flag right until this moment in time. So yeah, eking this bit of fuel out for another lap again. So I think we're going to see that gap might end up actually extending a little bit. However, Julian Metzner does look to be lapping a little bit quicker at the moment. Did seem to gain a couple of tenths in that last sector, so be interesting to see. But it's all about getting a clean in lap and a clean out lap as well. We've seen already multiple drivers having moments. Ben Massey throwing away really that opportunity to get past Dominic Gallo on his out lap. It's so easily done. Even if you've not changed your tyres, the tyres do drop a slight bit in temperature, but crucially you're also out of rhythm. This is a track where you need to get into that, what drivers will call a flow state, making sure that every single corner just nicely flows into the next one. The moment you've had a pit stop, your brain switches off for that second. You feel yourself relax, concentration can lapse. So it's going to be really crucial for Jan on these in laps, and then those first couple of laps to make sure that pace that we've seen all evening is maintained. Let's see if he comes in on this lap as we go through the Vidal chicane. Yep, there we go, into the pits we go. Nice and tidy through that right-hander, and just make sure that you get the car slowed down for pit lane. Nice and early on the pit limiter there, so taking no chances. When you've got a bit of a gap, there's no need to really throw the car in at that moment in time. Leave that to the chaser to take those risks as you try and bring it home in the last 8 minutes.
Certainly is. And being we were talking about the fastest laps earlier on, Luca Gray is heading around there right now at the front of your LMP2 field. He improved the fastest lap to a 43 flat. It was a 43.009. He was really pushing, thinking, yes, I can get this purple. I can take the full 55 points. What we should say is Charlie Devlin is half a second quicker. Jan Corbs is penalised. Jan Corbs has a penalty. The man who has led all race long has got a penalty. Why has he got an unsafe pit exit? Perhaps he was yes, he was penalised on the exit to pit lane. I think it's been an unsafe pit exit for Jan Corbs. We tried to have a little bit of a look here on board and see what happened to Corbs. He came to the stop. This was his splash and dash. You can see how quick it was. He exited. He has to keep it on the right-hand side of this white line. He does. It was not an unsafe pit exit. You said he was early onto the pit limiter. That's going to be interesting as to why Jan Corbs has been black flagged. He didn't get off lane either, so it's not like he got an off-track penalty. But for Jan Corbs, it is going to be a throwaway for your victory. And Julian Metzner, who's had nothing to answer for Jan Corbs all race long, has suddenly he's going to take the race lead, because here comes Corbs through the final turn, and he's going to have to take the penalty. Corbs gets onto the pit limiter there.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. I can't work it out unless he was too late on pit entry.
We're going to ride on board again.
Let's see.
He keeps it within, obviously, you can enter as late as possible there. What's it like here? He was on.
Yeah.
That is...
It's bizarre.
That is really bizarre for Jan Corbs. And for Corbs, he's slowly trundling down pit lane here. This is horrible for Corbs. We go back live. He's out pit lane, but he is behind Justin Stanek.
Really shows you what that consistency can mean. Sudenek just driving his own race, and all of a sudden has accidentally really found himself into second place. It's been a great drive from Justin, but yeah, it'd be really interesting to find out from Jan what he thinks has happened there, because as far as I've been looking back through the replays, as we see Marquez Ramos go off and just avoid the barrier there. I think he's just missed his break point.
He had a little bit of a wobble coming into it, so I think it was potentially just trying to collect that car there. But yeah, just looking at that, that's a really strange position. But it has given Tony Dibden a last-ditch sort of gasp for breath in terms of the podium. It was 10 seconds away from him in Justin Stanek. It is now only 4 seconds away from him in Corbs. Of course, Corbs is the fastest driver out there. He is running around as, you know, the driver who should have been leading this race. But Dibden could be looking up ahead and thinking, okay, maybe something. Corbs could overdrive it at this point in a potential chase down on Justin Stanek 6 seconds up the road, that he might then make a mistake and promote Dibden up to the podium. But this is going to have its own impact in your LMP1 championship, because we talked about that in our live standings earlier, about the gap between them. And Corbs no longer has that massive dominant run. Of course, he does have the bonus points for fastest lap, that extra 5 points on top of his 40 for P3. But that gap between himself and Julian Metzner will only be 13 points instead of 23 points that it was in his previous position. It has just closed that championship fight down at the halfway stage in this championship, because at the end of this race we are halfway through this season. 4 rounds will be complete. We have 4 to go, and we've got 3 back-to-back races as well as we head out for the next 2 race weekends after, well, 2 weekends after this one as well. Tony Dibden running around in 4th position but losing time to Jean Corbs, who is just pushing hard in P number 3. We've watched the pit entry, we've watched the pit exit. We cannot figure it out for Jean Corbs. Did he release the pit limiter too early on pit exit, perhaps, for Corbs? We are going to watch this again.
Potentially so, but it didn't look like it from the initial onboard. Let's see if we can take another look at this. But I think if you're Tony Dibden now, you're going to feel like a dog with a bone here. It is a 6-second gap, but if you know that the driver in front of you has had, it doesn't look like anything's necessarily gone wrong. Where are we looking on the exit? Perfectly clean on pit exit there. If you're Tony Dibden, you're looking at this driver and thinking, he's going to be a little bit rattled. Maybe Jan knows what's happened and isn't sort of in the same state of surprise as we are. But you're going to be annoyed. You've just lost the race lead. Your championship lead has also then been sliced away. It's going to be pressure on really for Jan Corbs at this point to just keep his head, keep that consistency through to these final couple of minutes. So Tony Dibden, if I'm him, I'm keeping.
Oh, as Mauricio Marquez Ramos there finds himself backwards at turn number 1. This is how he ended up facing the wrong way. A loss of the rear end. It steps out, and that was his teammate there of Dominic Gallo going past him at turn number 1. It does mean that Mauricio Marquez Ramos, does need to come down pit lane to serve that penalty now. But we've talked about Corbs keeping his head. He certainly is. He has closed up to 5 seconds behind Stanek, but it's just not going to be enough for him to get second. He cannot overdrive this now because Julian Metzner is on the penultimate lap of asking. We are going to get 1 more to go at the end of this lap, so about 1 3/4 of a lap to go with 1 minute 24 on the board. But for Julian Metzner, it's been a second place all race along, and in the final pit stops for the splash and dash, it was all unraveled for Jean Corbs. Why? We cannot tell you. We honestly have no idea. We've reviewed the footage, and pit entry, pit exit, pit lane, anything. We cannot figure out why there was a penalty there. We'll hopefully be able to have a word with Jean at the end of this race and see if we can figure out what on earth happened with the penalty for him, because it looked like a really smooth run. It was a great entry. He got it down onto the pit limiter on time. He picked up the penalty on pit exit. It popped up as a penalty for me, which means it was something down pit lane. But the pit exit looked good. The pit entry looked good. We cannot figure it out. But for Corbs, he has closed that gap down to Justin Stanek. It's 3.8 seconds, but surely, unless Stanek throws it, it's going to be 3rd place for Jean Corbs. He is pushing as hard as he possibly can as the white flag falls as Julian Metzner goes on to the last lap of asking. But for Jean Corbs, is he going to be able to get second? I think it's going to be a 3rd position result here, but it's all fallen down at the very end. We watched Julian Metzner then. 26 seconds clear in this race. It should be a nice, easy victory for him. It's not the biggest gap there is out there. Luca Gray leads Ryan Stringer for the lead, 40 seconds. That's not the biggest gap out there. Andy Bootland is going to win the GTE field by a whole lap over Mauricio Marquez Ramos, who we saw has had multiple spins and has had to come down pit lane for a penalty. But for Mauricio Marquez Ramos, even being a lap down, he's still taking second position. He's still going to take the 45 points that come with second position. Charlie Devlin did go even faster for your LMP2 fastest lap. He's managed to achieve a 42.221, which is 8 tenths faster than anyone else. Of course, he did put on a fresh set of tyres with that low fuel levels that'll help him out in getting the extra 5 bonus points. This, however, is Julian Metzner. He's going to come through the final chicane, and Metzner, second position all race long, will be our first repeat winner. He won at Spa. He will win here at Nurburgring. Julian Metzner takes victory in your LMP1 field. Luca Gray will come around to start his last lap of asking. Andy Bootland takes victory in your GTE field. And for Jean Corbs, it was enough to close up to 2 seconds between himself and Stanek. That was a 4-second that he's managed to gain to Stanek since his penalty. But for Corbs, it was just 1 lap too little, and he will take home 3rd position in this one. Stanek takes home 2nd place, and for Tony Dibden, it's 4th in the end. Ryan Stringer takes home 2nd in that. No, oh, is Ryan Stringer going to take home 2nd? Yes, he has taken home 2nd. He did not get onto the white flag lap, so he will actually finish a lap behind Luca Gray as well. Luca Gray took the lead at turn number 1 past Charlie Devlin, and he did not look back. He takes what will be his 2nd win of the season. The last time he took victory was round 1 at Silverstone, when Charlie Devlin did not appear. This is the first time that Devlin is not going to be able to take a victory in a race. He will take the bonus points for fastest lap, but Luca Gray will come around the final corner and will take the checkered flag for first in class. It will be Ben Massey missing out on the end over Gallo, and will come home in 6th position, and it will be in the end Andy Bootland who wins in your GTE field as well. And a great set of racing going on there, and what was for the first stint just constant fighting throughout the field. But we come to a close here at the Nurburgring. We will talk you through your entire race results from that one, starting with your GTE field. We will do, and then we will make our way through each of the different categories. Let's get ourselves our screens here so we can have a little bit of a look. And we will have a look at our GT. Oh no, that's all our race results. That's not what the button was that I wanted to see. It was our GTE race results we wanted to see. And it was Andy Bootland who took home victory in that one. 3 laps clear of Marquez Ramos, but it will be points for Mauricio in that one. LMP2 field then. It was a win for Luca Gray, a lap clear of Ryan Stringer and Charlie Devlin. Lucas Chatterton coming home 2 laps down. No points will go on the board for Ewan Stitchbury in 5th position. And finally, in your LMP1 field, Julian Metzner takes victory ahead of Stanek Corbs with issues. And that penalty right towards the end comes home on the final podium position. Tony Dibden taking home 4th. A lap down was Dominic Gallo and Ben Massey. 2 laps down was Julian Daniels. And out of the race due to connectivity issues was Matthew Carmichael. And that is going to have an impact on each of our championship standings, as well as we have a look at our top 10 in each of those. Andy Bootland now takes the lead in the GTE Championship ahead of Beresville and Fairweather. Mauricio Ramos in 4th ahead of Thomas Corson, and Ansel Mia Rose in 7th ahead of Shepherd, Graham, and then obviously that's all of your drivers that have got the points on the board. In your LMP2 field, it is leading with Charlie Devlin, but a result after that one, it's only 5 points between Devlin and Luca Gray in your LMP2 championship. That is going to be a fight all the way through the second half of the season. Ryan Stringer holding on to third right now, clear of Lucas Chatterton, who finds himself up to fourth position. The rest of your drivers are no points for them, so no position changes. And finally, your LMP1 field is Jan Korbs, who will hold on to the championship there. 150 points over Julian Metzner with 137. Quinton Verdonk falls down to third. Justin Stanek moves up into fourth position past Tony Dibden. With that result, 3 points separate them. Is then a gap down to the rest of our drivers. Dominic Gallo getting points on the board there, moves himself up to seventh position. Ben Massey moving himself into ninth position in that one. A great evening of racing all around third, and we are going to have a little bit of a talk with some of our drivers. If I find the correct mouse here and we can find where we are going to head across into the other one. And to be fair, I'm looking here and I cannot see any interviews. Anyone's waiting for an interview, so we might not be sitting for any interviews. No, there we go, interview waiting room. We'll be heading across to the broadcast room and doing some interviews over there. James, are you joining us for the broadcast interviews?
Yeah, I will be.
Excellent. We'll see you in there and we'll get across into the broadcast booth. So we'll head over here into the broadcast booth here for the end of the race, and we will have a word with our drivers. I'll pull James in first. Right, the first driver we'll talk to then is the man who ended up on the very top of that one, and I don't think it was one that you were expecting to be. Julian Metzner somehow in all of that, after running around in second position all race long, you end up coming home at the very top. Talk us through it, because it was what looked like a very surprise victory.
Well, it was, yeah. I did not expect anything outside of P2 until Jan made, once again, a pit stop error. So, yeah, I don't know. Just unfortunate for him, I guess, but I capitalized.
I was going to say, we were trying to figure out what might have happened there to Jan Korbs, because he came home with that penalty, and we watched back in all of it, and we couldn't figure out the penalty at all. Through the first stint, though, you managed to keep yourself really close together. It opened up, of course, after that first pit stop. Was there a difference in your pit strategies that allowed it to open up in the first place?
Well, I was going without any fuel saving while Jan was fuel saving, so he was able to go a lap longer. And then just like at Spa, I did not have any pace after the first pit stop. So yeah, it's like history repeating itself, I guess.
Well, at the end of it, it meant that you were the man who came home on the very top of the board. You're the first repeat winner of the season as well, and with it, it means that you have minimized the gap between yourself and Korbs as we are the halfway point on the season. How are you looking as we enter the back half? Do you think that there is still that opportunity to take the championship? We know that Korbs is quick. Do you think you can find the more consistent results by the end of it?
Well, it's once again like the same thing I said last time I was here. As long as I don't make any errors and the others do, I'm doing good. So yeah, I just have to stay clean, don't do any pit stop errors, and take it home.
Well, it was just keeping it clean for you, and you certainly did. An excellent race victory at the end on something that might not have otherwise been a victory. It's all about consistency in 90 minutes. Congratulations on your second win of the season.
Thanks.
Julian Metzner there taking home victory. And James, I'll lead this one over to you. It's going to be Luca Gray that will be pulling in, and Luca coming home in the win in that one.
Yeah, congratulations, Luca. How'd you find the race?
Bit of a lonely one, I can't lie.
We were watching yourself and Charlie trading for fastest lap during the sort of the final half an hour of the race. Was that something that was on your mind? Were you sort of watching Charlie pumping those laps in and trying to get that fastest lap back, or was that just you driving your own race?
No, yeah, I was just driving completely my own race after he dropped back. Just thinking to myself, don't do anything stupid, just bring it home, because I had the gap. So, nothing stupid, and it worked.
Yeah, always the best, I think, in endurance racing. Keep it clean, keep it simple. How do you find the challenge of the Nurburgring? You know, obviously we've gone to some really fast, long tracks, and then we come into something that's a lot more tight and twisty, huge curbs. How have you found sort of adapting to that challenge of the Nurburgring track?
Well, it's not my favourite, I'll put it that way, but it's definitely a good challenge, especially with the curbs. But I think the other version of the Nurburgring's better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a lot of debate, I think, amongst all the fans as to which the best of the Nurburgring layouts is. As you look to the rest of the season, then, Luca, what's the number one aim? Is it consistency? Have you got sort of any goals? Is it just keep pumping in those race wins?
Yeah, basically, don't drop any further than second. I think I've not finished lower than second so far this year, so if I can keep that up, I think I can do all the races. So the drop round should be pretty favourable to me.
Yeah, you're in a nice position when a drop round puts you in second. So, congratulations, Luca. It's been a fantastic evening of racing and great to watch you be so dominant today. So thank you very much and congratulations again.
Well, thank you.
Luca Gray there, coming home in P number 1 in your LMP2 field, and it's saying keeping it consistent, that's what matters, because it is only 5 points between himself and Charlie Devlin in the championship, and he has said the lowest that he's finished this season is P2. That is the case, and that is what he is dropping as well. 2 wins, 2 second places for Luca Gray as it stands. And with it being said here around the wonderful Nurburgring circuit, we are going to step back from the event because we are done and dusted here at the Nurburgring for the 4th round of competition. We will be back out again, of course, at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in just a week's time for round number 5. And hold on to your hats, guys. We aren't just going to go back-to-back races. No, we're going to 3 in a row. We'll also head across to the Circuit of the Americas on the 18th of April for round number 6. So make sure you are joining us for that one. If you're watching over on the Aztecs Racing YouTube page, make sure you hit that subscribe button over there so you're notified when we go live on these wonderful Saturdays throughout the season for this first season of competition in the WEC Classic League. If you're watching over on the Joseph Wright Broadcasting channels, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button over there. If you're watching on the Twitch, hit the follow button. We are not done at Joseph Wright Broadcasting this weekend. We will be back out again tomorrow. We will be out for the Porsches and the touring cars, where instead of having James Paisley Knight with me in the box, we are going to have him out on the track, although it has been absolutely wonderful having you up here in the commentary box with me tonight. James, it was your first experience out there on the track for this WEC Classic League. It was the smallest grid to offer, but some great racing. How have you found it?
Absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's been a fantastic evening of racing, and it's nice to be on this side of the racing rather than stressing out behind a steering wheel trying to keep it on track. It's been an absolute pleasure to be alongside you tonight and to watch some fantastic racing all the way up and down the grid.
And to see some more fantastic racing. We will be back in just 1 week's time for round number 5 here, though, at Joseph Wright Broadcasting and the Aztec Racing League. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. You enjoy the extended weekend if you are anywhere like myself in the UK and you have those long weekends for Easter. And we will be back in just a week's time for round number 5. We're halfway through the championship, and each of your championships are still open for the taking. Your LMP2s, though, they weren't the fighting down on the track that we usually see. The fighting instead in the fastest laps and the championship points. We'll be back in a week's time. But until then, we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.